here's Brody Brazil.
So full disclosure, this is a video about two things I like: baseball and beers. It's just that when you combine the two and some recent changes in baseball, you might run into some problems. Beer sales across select stadiums in the league have been extended now to the 8th inning instead of the 7th. But how exactly did we get here? What is the controversy? Let's spell everything out. It's simple to understand, but it's a solution that may be difficult to reach here. The situation goes like this. The pitch timer and some rule changes this year with Major League Baseball, it has shortened games on average by about 30 minutes. And so that's good for the game. That's what they set out to do. This was long anticipated. It was something that took a lot of work and effort by the league and players to come up with, and they're executing it and it's working. So in a sense of helping the game in other ways, it's exactly what they intended and set out to do. But here comes the complication. Shorter game times for teams that, yes, are also businesses means shorter times for fans to go to the concession stands. And not just food and snacks, but also beverages. And specifically one of the moneymakers, which is beer sales, that used to typically end after the 7th inning of games. At that point, you're cut off. That's the end of the night. 7th inning could come a lot quicker sometimes or later, depending on how the game was playing out. But they just figured that, hey, 7th inning is a good time to cut things off. We won't do a time limit because then you got to have a clock or a timer somewhere. We'll just say 7th inning of this game is when we call it quits for the night. And that's, easy to understand. And that was pretty much a standard across the league. But now some teams are looking at it and saying, well, that's not enough for us. We're cutting off the opportunity for people to enjoy another Coors Light or whatever it may be, a double IPA maybe in my case. But certain teams like Arizona, Texas, Minnesota, and Milwaukee are now saying, we'll extend beer sales into the 8th inning because we recognize that the game is shorter. So we're not changing the total time and opportunity for you. We're going to keep that the same, even though the game itself is a lot shorter. So that 7th inning cutoff was arriving a lot sooner, maybe a half hour sooner, maybe even 20 minutes sooner, but they decided to extend beer sales into the 8th inning. So the concern, though, is the closer you get to the end of the game, the closer any fan is to driving home, whether they were the ones having a drink or a few or not. So this is the concern, and it's a very realistic thing to think about. At some point, everybody seemed to settle on the 7th inning. That was fine. Now we're getting a shorter game, and we're extending the opportunity for alcohol sales. So here's one perspective on it. This comes from a player, not even a fan. Matt Strom of the Phillies, their pitcher, on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast said this, quote, "The reason we stopped selling alcohol in the 7th before was to give our fans time to sober up and drive home safe, correct? So now with a faster pace game, and me just being a man of common sense, if the game is going to finish quicker, would we not move the beer sales back up to the 6th inning to give our fans time to sober up and drive home?" He continues, "Instead, we're going to the 8th, and now you're putting our fans and our family at risk, driving home with people who have just drank beers 22 minutes ago." I mean, it's understandable. He makes valid points there. It's something to consider. It's something we have not figured out yet, right? All of this is new. The shorter games, the extension of the ability to go buy a beer. I would certainly hope that it has no direct or definitely negative effect, but we just don't know yet. So here are my takeaways. Beginning with the time change and the rule change and the pitch timer. Baseball needed that. Again, baseball implemented that very strategically, very deliberately on purpose. They had to fix the game to appeal to more fans, to simply do better business. So they gained something there. But my next point is that you can't win the battle on all fronts. Yeah, part of making the decision to shorten games, you had to consider how the rest of your business would operate. The idea of shortening baseball games was a business decision. And part of the business decision had to come with some negative drawbacks of like, yeah, maybe losing a little bit of money on those last few beer sales per game. So baseball here is trying to win the battle on all fronts. You cannot do it. You fix a bigger problem, and it's not going to solve all of your problems here. It's not going to make everything better. And again, what are we talking about? An inning of baseball to not sell beer, hypothetically? But lastly, I don't want to overreact to this too much, right? Obviously, I realize the risks at hand here. I don't know if we'll ever have stats or correlation on game duration and beer sales and hopefully, not too many unfortunate incidents. I don't know if we'll be able to piece all of that ever together. But look, this whole situation, it's as simple as this. There's no direct answers today or tomorrow or maybe even next week, but this is something to watch. This is something to be flexible with. If those handful of teams, they start extending their beer sales into the eighth inning and there's no problems, okay, we'll move on. If there are problems, I do think we have to revisit it and address it. And just like Strom said there, it is a little bit counterintuitive to shorten the game and then extend the opportunity for beer sales to get that same total duration, but to do it in a shorter time span of a visit to the ballpark. So there's a lot to be sorted out here, but only time is going to help us do that. I hope we don't have to pay for this time and opportunity to learn the answer to this situation. But there you go, beer and baseball. Again, this is a conflict of interest here. Two things I enjoy on a regular basis. Not always together. Actually, I'm envious of the fans who do get to do that. Me, as a person who works in this industry, it's a rarity that I enjoy both at the same time. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thumbs up on this video if you liked it or if it made some sense. And also, don't forget, subscribe to this channel so that I can see you next time.